Please welcome Di Manuel. What's your bliss? What's your bliss, Di Manuel?
When the pain of not changing hurts more than the pain of change, we're ready to make a change. Mountain Contest Chair, fellow Toastmasters, and most welcome guests, I'm going to take you back to January 1st, 2010. I awoke on the floor of my bedroom. My face was raw from rubbing up against the Berber carpet over the evening. I had no recollection of how I got there. All I could hear was off in the distance some clanging dishes and some children laughing. I got myself up. I made my way down the hall, down the stairs, while nursing what felt like a Queen concert in my head. Thump, thump, thump. As I turned the bottom of the stairs, I saw my kids on the couch, ages 4 and 6 at the time, my two daughters, watching their favorite show, Dora the Explorer. At the dishwasher was my fiery redhead wife, Christy, but not so happy today. In fact, when we caught glances of one another, I could tell that something was way off. I've never seen her look at me like that before. She was unloading those dishes, and quite frankly, everybody in our neighborhood also knew she was doing the same thing. She waved me over to the kitchen table. We sat down. We started to have a conversation. Tears quickly ensued as she shared with me that her plans to take my daughters away from me, that it was no longer an environment that was suitable to raise our kids. I pleaded, I argued, I explained why I was doing the things that I did, why I was choosing to value alcohol over my family. She simply looked at me and she asked me a simple question. Di, are you being the type of man that you would want to marry your daughters? It's incredible the power of a single question when asked at the right time, by the right person, for the right reasons, and how it can change everything. And it did. That was the last time I ever had a drink. Now over 10 years. Life's had its challenges, I'll give it that, but that's what makes life beautiful, isn't it? Are the challenges, the ups, the downs, the learning opportunities. But it got me really curious about something around change. And I found myself wondering, well, what motivates us to do the things that we even do? Why do we do these things? And when I started to look into it and look into the actual science around change and habits and why we find ourselves motivated to do things, even when we know they're not the things that are in our best interest, I was just blown away by what I discovered. Do you know that every single day we are faced with 60 to 80,000 thoughts in this little muscle between the ears? I'm surprised we can keep track of 1 or 2 thoughts in a day, let alone 60 to 80,000. But what's happened over the millennia is that we've been conditioned to deal with these thoughts in a very, very quick way. We filter them. And it really boils down to 2 basic emotions. Hey, I like this and I want more, or I don't like this. And we repel it and repulse it and push it away. Love and hate. 2 basic foundational emotions help us filter our mind and thoughts and stimulus. What is super interesting is when you start to look at habits, because we do have habits, we've learned to be so conditioned in our subconscious to do things without even thinking about it. Think about the last time you found yourself commuting to work and remembering that you had to think about what was for lunch, you had that meeting as well as that report due. And next thing you know, you remember leaving your home, but you don't remember how you got to work. But you got there safe and sound. That was that automatic part of us that takes over, the subconscious. When we start to look at habits and the science of habits, there's 3 little phases. We have a trigger or a cue. We have a habit, that's the thing we do. And then we ultimately, at the end, have a reward. When I think back to my own life and some of the habits and some of the choices I've made, they weren't necessarily in my best interest because we've been hardwired for survival. We're hardwired to try to just simply survive. But I think we forget that we have a choice and we can thrive. See, the cue and the trigger for me in my little habit chain was the fact that I had a lot of anxiety and stress as it related to being in social situations. But you see, I figured out at an early age of around 18, 19, that if I had a couple of drinks, I could be an okay guy. I could have the conversation with those people. I could be somebody a little bit different, and I felt comfortable enough to be able to open up. The funny thing is the reward was I had temporary relief. I escaped the stress and the anxiety for a moment, even though it was only a moment. But the science of change tells us that we can change habits, even the ones that aren't serving us. But it's not easy. And that's okay, because I can tell you personally, it's worth it. You see, we can't change the cue or the trigger, and I don't recommend you change the reward. But that habit, we do want to change, and we want to change it frequently. For me, and you're going to love this, the thing that I replaced the drinking with was showing up at Toastmaster meetings. Because I knew when I removed alcohol and made that decision after Christy asked me that question was, I'm not going to drink anymore. The anxiety and the stress didn't go away. And yet I still wanted the reward. So what could I do? Well, my mentor told me, check out Toastmasters. It will help you feel more comfortable in public, be a better speaker, better communicator. And funny enough, I just kept showing up. Here I am, delivering a speech to you. Case in point, habits, change is possible. 2,500 years ago, a wiser man than I said, this too shall pass. The Buddha was wise. He knew what he was talking about. And it's the idea that change is always happening. It is the only guarantee in life. You see, we come into life, we leave life. But everything in between, well, that's on us. So how do we decide to live that life? What are the habits that serve us and the habits that don't? Because you know what? Change is possible. Joseph Campbell asked a simple question. He challenges us to follow our bliss. This means choosing the path in life that allows us to maximize our happiness, our fulfillment, our sense of purpose, and actively living into that. So I leave you with a simple question. Are you following your bliss? Madam Contest Chair.
Contestant number 1, Trevor Follett. Contestant number 1, Trevor Follett.
Thank you very much, Madam Contest Chair. Good afternoon, Toastmasters and guests. And thank you very much, Di. Thank you for the inspirational speech, and thank you for your vulnerability. I found I really connected with you in the speech, and I really enjoyed it. I also really like your shirt, by the way. I think we're matching. For this evaluation, I'll focus on the thing that I think made Di's speech really effective, and a few things that maybe he can challenge himself on and improve on next time. I'll talk about both delivery and on structure. So starting with the delivery, some things that Di did really well. Number 1 was gestures. I found from the get-go, he was centered, he was confident, he had his hands at centered. It made me feel like he was at ease, and therefore I also felt at ease watching his speech. He had beautiful language. He was giving us descriptive words, thump, thump. His face was raw from rubbing, and that made me really feel like I could visualize what was going on. He was good. He had a good use of voice. He had pause. He drew us in by lowering his voice and took pauses in that moment where he was talking with his wife. To make his gestures even better, I would encourage him to be mindful of this gesture. I noticed a few times that Di was repeating this one, and I did occasionally find it a little bit distracting. So that's one thing to be mindful of. Another room for improvement on delivery is maybe on the enthusiasm. I felt like his enthusiasm was there, but overall I found the speech a little bit serious, and so maybe an opportunity for him would be to throw in a few smiles, maybe a joke, just to put us at ease for what's a pretty serious and a pretty vulnerable topic. On the structure, I have to say, Dai's structure was crisp. He had an intro, he had a personal story, he had an analysis of the personal story, and then he brought it back to his personal story. I knew exactly where we were, and I was able to parse it, I was able to follow it, and I commend him on that. One room for improvement maybe on the structure is maybe to think a little bit more about the conclusion and a little bit more about the purpose. I surmise that his purpose was to inspire us to change some of our own negative habits, but he never really explicitly said that. And I think maybe one opportunity would be to reflect on that purpose and see how he could incorporate it earlier in his speech. And maybe he could use some audience engagement to do that. Maybe he could challenge us to think about our own moments in our life and then bring that back at the end of the speech. Like I said, overall, I felt inspired, and Dai, thank you again for your vulnerability. If you watch a little bit on the repetitive gestures and bring a little enthusiasm, if you reflect on the purpose and insert that a little bit earlier into your speech, I think that will elevate your speech one level further. Thank you again. I wish you all the best, and back over to you, Contest Chair.
Contestant number 2, Sharina Dupre. Sharina Dupre, contestant number 2.
Madam Contest Chair, fellow Toastmasters, beautiful guests, and especially attractive judges. This afternoon, I have the pleasure of being your tour guide of this evaluation of Dai's speech. Now, when I woke up this morning, I did not know that I would have the honor of hearing someone share a piece of their soul on stage. And that's what I experienced, and I'm sure we all experienced a piece of this today. Wow. Thank you, Dai, for sharing. So today I want to explore Dai's speech, so come with me now. Some of the things that I really appreciated about this speech, I'm going to display to you in the LTO method. Things I loved about this speech, how he can take it to the next level, and oh, the places he'll grow. So first off, what are some things that I loved about this speech? Dai has this amazing ability to captivate the audience, even with the serious energy. He started right off the bat with a very bold, impactful statement. When the pain of not changing becomes more painful than the change itself, it makes you pause and think. Great use and great way to engage the audience right from the start. I was following along very intently because I knew there was going to be more juiciness to come. What I also really loved about his speech was his use of pausing, and not just regular pausing. He went all the way. He paused before a statement, and he also left room to pause after. What this allows, when you pause before you make a statement, it allows the audience to lean in, wanting more, craving more. When you pause after a statement, it allows the audience time to marinate in the message you just shared. Similar to teriyaki chicken. But yes, it gives us that impact to the statement you're making, and I think he did a fantastic job of this throughout his entire speech, so well done. Now, a couple ways that Dai can take it to the next level. I noticed that this story that he shared was not just any story, it was a personal story, incredibly powerful. And so I want to help Dai elevate it so that all of his message in this personal, heartfelt story lands the way it needs to. What I would encourage Dai to try, since there's so much information in one story and only 5 to 7 minutes to capture it, I would invite him to start to explore ways that he could extract maybe the meatiest parts of his speech so that he can put them on a pedestal and we can actually take them in more thoroughly. Maybe by saying 3 to 5 points so that we can really allow the message to sink in. As well, I'm going to offer an opportunity for him to use and inject humor. I know this speech was quite serious, so I wanted to offer him a place to actually share humor in ways to make us feel more engaged and relaxed. I know the places he'll grow by using all these techniques. He's going to take it to the next level and see you on the stage the next time. Thank you, Dai.
Contestant number 3, Vivian Ip. Vivian Ip, contestant number 3.
Thump, thump, thump. Who knew thumping could make such a big change? Madam Contest Chair, fellow Toastmasters, most welcome guests, and especially Di. I had the privilege and honor of evaluating Di's speech, my very first in the Zoom online platform. And I believe, or I was quite happy to see, that Di is an excellent speaker. And I'll prove it to you throughout my evaluation method of what I saw, what I heard, and what I felt. First off, I saw that Di was a fantastic, experienced speaker, not just because he kept his calm and his cool through all the technical glitches, but because I was watching for eye contact. You know how hard it is to stare at that little black dot? It is extremely hard, but Di never stopped making eye contact with us, his audience. That's fantastic. Di, I believe, also knew his parameters very well. He was in a limited space, but he knew how far his camera edges were on the screen, and he never strayed outside, so we were always able to see it throughout the entire speech. I heard Di, and I believe that he would do well in an online setting or in front of a live audience of 500 people. His voice never wavered. If he was nervous, he did not show it. He had a nice, easy to follow pace. It was nice, crisp, it was clean, and I could tell there's little hints of emotion that were breaking through as he begged and he told us, as he pleaded with his wife. In his speech, I also heard a lot of great content from Di. He told us about change, and he told us about the roots of change and why we might have some habits and how we can break free from others. That was great content. But what I felt with that hook that Di told us to bring us into his speech, he started off with a personal story. Not only was it a personal story, it was a very vulnerable story. It's not easy to admit that you have a habit or a weakness such as alcoholism, but Di stood strong and he told us, and he was vulnerable, and that really connected with myself. A couple of things I felt about Di's speech, but what I really want to hone in on was, much like Di challenging us to make a change, I would also challenge Di to make one change in his emotion-packed and content-rich speech. It's to do with the ending. I thought Di had a great ending where he quoted people and famous people and challenged us to make a change. But what I felt the root of Di's speech was actually the root of discovering why we do the things we do. And to wrap it all up and give us the punchline, which is how he changed, was to join Toastmasters. So in summary, I would challenge Di to continue with the great eye contact, clear voice, but make that slight switch and end off with Toastmasters, Madam Contest Chair.
Contestant number 4, Kenny Pack. Kenny Pack, contestant number 4.
Thank you, Madam Contest Chair Carol, and welcome fellow Toastmasters to this unprecedented first evaluation contest for the district. I want to, of course, first thank you, Di Manuel, for his speech of What's Your Bliss? And today, I have the pleasure of evaluating and summarizing what I felt and saw during this very profound speech from a very personal level. The areas I usually kind of go through is through the glove technique, gestures, language, organization, volume, enthusiasm. And the first thing I have to say is how well Di melded all those pieces together. But I will try to summarize it in these categories: organization, language, gesture, and general enthusiasm. First of all, organization. Wow, what a well-prepared speech. And even before talking about the contents and delivery, even how he set up and was prepared, good distance from the camera. In today's new technology, him setting that up, proper lighting, wireless earbuds, that is almost thought of as secondary, but very important basis. Organization. Way to take us from the past by using language like, let me take you back, and organizing that logically about setting the statement. Even at the beginning, the statement of when is pain when you don't do something worse than when you do something. Very striking statement, did introduction to the audience, and that was very powerful, this starting off with a statement right there. And I quite enjoyed it myself. It drew my attention in. I zoomed in literally into the camera towards the audience. As he proceeded, he posed the problem that he encountered and he was struggling through. And he took a step back and reflected upon himself to go forward. And as he forwarded it to the beginning, he talked about the idea of thinking about breaking the problem down in almost a scientific manner. I want to give him a nod. I'm not sure if he did this on purpose or not, but I believe the technique of cue, habit, reward is something called the power of habit by Dunhill, I believe his last name was. If you didn't, great job. I suggest you read the book. If you did, way to use that and suddenly put that in without even mentioning it. That's fantastic. The next thing I want to talk about is language, very visual words, things like rough on the carpet, using the hand gestures with that. Talking about nursing a headache at a Queen concert, and if anybody's gone clubbing before, you would invoke those images of like having one too many beers and it was very good, very visualized, and I could see it. And even with this technology where we thought hand gestures were not going to be important, this is even more important. And general enthusiasm, that was fantastic. I would say the tip I would have for them is less is more. So a little less, more pauses, that would be fantastic. In summary, I thought it was great. Organization and gestures and language are fantastic, but I would do a little less of everything and more pauses. Thank you.
Contestant number 5, Payman Permay. Payman Permay, contestant number 5.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. What a great speech by Dai we heard tonight. Right away, when Dai was getting introduced, I heard the title, What's Your Bliss? In the back of my mind, I was wondering, what is this speech going to be about? He then got up here very confident, with a very confident stance, and started off with a great quote. Something to the effect of, you start changing when you realize the cost of being the same is higher than the cost of changing. He then went on to tell us a very suspenseful story. He told us about how he got up, he saw his children, and then he saw his wife. And right away, he knew something was wrong. At that moment, he really built up a suspense. I was wondering what's going to happen, what is wrong, and what is his wife going to talk about? We then found out that he had a problem with alcoholism, and his wife gave him an ultimatum that if you do not stop with this alcoholism, I would like to get a divorce. He then repeated a very powerful quote by his wife. Are you being the man that you want your children to marry? At that moment, he paused in order to emphasize that quote, which I really liked because that was a turning point in the speech. After he told us that he had that great introduction and he gave us what was happening and how he dealt with alcoholism, I was left wondering, what is he going to talk about next? Well, he had something planned. He then went on to talk about habits in general and what he had learned throughout his experience of letting go of alcoholism about habits. He told us about how we have 60 to 80,000 thoughts per day. We have 2 basic emotions, love and hate. He went on to talk about what the main constitutes of a habit are. He gave us examples. He talked about triggers, cues, and rewards. While he was doing this, his hand gestures were perfect. If he wanted to emphasize something, he would emphasize it. When he was talking about rotations, he would actually move his hands. But I found that when he was telling us about everything about habit, he could have been more concise. He shared a bit too much. I think he could have made it more concise in order to make it easier for the audience to understand. One other thing that I noticed is that his hand gestures, his resting hand gestures was like this. Now, I know this is kind of subjective, but people say that you should have your hands open because that's more welcoming to the audience. So if Dai could work on his hand gestures being open by his sides, that would be even better. One more thing I noticed for Guy. Guy was very excited to tell us everything that he wanted to tell us about, but he could have paused more. I know that he paused in specific locations, but he could have even slowed down more in order to emphasize the points that he wants to bring up. That is the main point that I want to leave Guy with. And he then went on to talk about how he replaced alcoholism with Toastmasters. What a better place to talk about Toastmasters than when you're in the contest. I love hearing that. I love hearing that Toastmasters made a change for him. He had a great conclusion, and he ended up with a question: what's our bliss? Overall, Dai's speech was great and amazing. The main point that I would suggest for him is to pause and slow down more. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Contestant number 6, Sasha Patouillet. Sasha Patouillet, contestant number 6.
This afternoon, we heard an inspiring speech from Dai about change. Madam Chair, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests. When Dai began to speak, he had a strong voice, and I was impressed that he had already mastered this virtual eye contact. But the first specific strength that really stood out for me was how he used curiosity. Excellent speakers know that curiosity will captivate an audience, and he did just that. I loved how he used a flashback. There he was, laying on his carpet, incoherent, he couldn't remember, stepped up and walked into the kitchen. I mean, who wasn't wondering what was happening next? I thought he used exceptional curiosity. The next strength that really stood out for me was how he used conflict. He added conflict to create drama and tension. And what more drama and tension do you need than someone taking your kids away, a fight with your wife, your life is falling apart, and also you're struggling with alcoholism? I thought he set the stage just perfect, flawlessly, with the curiosity and the conflict. So how can we enhance this speech? And I would say it's with a repetitive phrase. Something like, you can find your bliss. If he stated that at the beginning, a couple times in the middle, and at the end, it would really drive home the point of his speech. I liked too how he had interaction with his wife, but I thought he could have enhanced that also by creating character dialogue. Step to the side and take on the persona of your wife and create a conflict. Look back and challenge your wife. By creating character dialogue, we can break down the walls of this virtual meeting, and the audience can be there at the scene in your kitchen. So what's the final specific strength that stood out for me? And I think it was the message. He delivered a strong message, a message that everyone here can relate to, that we can all change, that we can all become better people, and we can find our bliss. To summarize, excellent use of curiosity, phenomenal conflict. Add that repetitive phrase to drive home the point, create that battling character dialogue, and what an exceptional message. And the next time every person in this room is struggling with change, I challenge you to think of this speech and ask yourself, what is your bliss? Madam Chair.
Contestant number 7, Katie Potraz. Katie Potraz, contestant number 7.
We have a choice and we can thrive. Madam Chair, fellow Toastmasters and guests, Dai, wow, what an amazingly inspiring speech that was. Not only is Dai an incredible public speaker, but the message that he was sharing with us tonight was so incredibly empowering and important. Really, what I got from his speech was that we all have the ability to change our lives at any time. He illustrated that beautifully with his vulnerable, deep story of change. I appreciate and applaud him for using this opportunity to share with us such a vulnerable story that takes guts. And I appreciate the message that he's sharing with us, that we really are in control of our lives. And I can relate to his story so much. I want to first off say, Di, wow, your use of descriptive language is amazing. That intro, when you were sharing with us, you woke up, your head was pounding, you're coming down the stairs, you see your daughters, you see your wife. Wow. I mean, you were so descriptive, and the use of the pause with the emphasis. I mean, I was on the edge of my seat listening. I mean, we were there with you. We felt that. I mean, we're not there with you. We're going through a screen here, but we felt that emotion. Like, we were so emotionally invested because of your incredible use of the language and the descriptive words that you chose. Amazing. Your ability to inject storytelling into your speech really just brought it to that next level. I love how you took us on a journey. I mean, you took us from your rock bottom, and you brought us all the way through to where you are now. And not only did you tell us an amazing, inspiring story, but you're able to inject in there some really valuable information about our subconscious mind, about, our emotions, how our habits are formed, and how we can change that. I mean, that is gold. I applaud you for taking this opportunity to share and allow us to benefit from your speech in such a deep level. So your ability to really teach us and allow us to grow through your speech, and as well as sharing such a vulnerable story with us, is really just the perfect combination. You kept a really great pace throughout your speech. You really know when to speed up and to slow down, and your pausing is perfect. The one thing I would suggest is when you're asking the audience a direct question, which you did a lot, which I loved, really thought-provoking questions, I would just pause a little bit longer so we can absorb that and really reflect, because these are really thought-provoking questions. Overall, you are clearly an amazing public speaker. Your message is so important. I think it's obvious that you have found your bliss and are clearly pursuing it. Madam Chair.
We will now get to know our contestants a little bit better. So please join me in welcoming our Club Growth Director, DTM, Mimi Vanderhyde, Program Quality Director-elect. Mimi.
That's a mouthful. Thank you,
Carol. I know.
It'll just get easier and easier until it'll just flow right out of our mouths. What a contest. And I so commend each of our contestants for being like the inaugural online District 96 evaluation contest contestant. There's a mouthful too. Yay. And if you were in the room with all of us right now, you would know there was a resounding applause for you. So take a deep breath, shake it out, and let's get to know you a little bit better. Just a quick note, your participant certificate will be emailed to you right after the contest. I have them already. I'll just throw them in an email, and you can look for yours in the email and print it out if you like. So in speaking order, Trevor, can I have you come on up and onto our screen? See if I can see you as soon as you start talking. Hello. I can hear you. Thank you very much. So representing Division H, Trevor, can you give us a little bit, just a snippet of your Toastmasters experience so far?
My Toastmasters experience so far. I joined at the end of 2016 after I graduated from school in Alberta and moved out to Squamish. I joined Sea to Sky Toastmasters there. I've been there ever since. So I guess that's a little over 3 years now. I've been the VP Ed for the last year and a bit at my club. I have competed in the contest a couple of times in 2018 and in this year, and yeah, I've loved, well, maybe not every minute of it, but every time I come back. I would say it's 95% great.
All the Toastmasters were chuckling at the same thing. It's like, ooh, I don't know about all of it, but So you said that pivoting, learning is so pivotal to our lives. What's next for you in your Toastmasters career in learning?
That's a good question. Next to my Toastmasters career, probably to really dig into pathways, if I'm honest, and particularly on the humor side. I'm interested in starting the engaging humor path. I think that's the room of improvement, for an area of improvement where I can really step up. I'm pretty good at being analytical and structure. I think my delivery is pretty good, but sometimes I can tend to be a bit serious, and I think the engaging humor path would be a good way to maybe lighten things up a bit.
Very good. And if you were in the room when we interviewed Di, who of course is our test speaker, he was into stand-up comedy. So I'm starting to see a theme here. So very nice. Thank you so much, Trevor.
Thank you very much.
Representing Division B today, Sharina, can you come on the screen?
Hello.
Hello. Beautiful smile. I love it. Taking a deep breath. Excellent. Tell us just briefly about your Toastmasters experience. When did you start and so forth?
My Toastmasters experience started in, I'm going to try to look at the camera, it started in 2013. So I joined in July 2013 at Telecom Toastmasters in a little church in New Westminster. Great club. And then over the years I evolved, and there was a point where I was in 3 clubs at once, and did area director role as well as like VP PR, VP membership roles. And then I think along the lines I took a little bit of a break, and then recently in September I got back to it at Earthware Toastmasters in Vancouver, and I'm also their club president right now. So that's
very cool. Very cool. So you've done a lot in your 7 years. Excellent.
Time flies.
On your bio, you said about having the space to grow. How has Toastmasters done that for you?
Oh, Toastmasters, yes. I think in general too, like it applies here, it applies in life. What I'm noticing is like being surrounded by different people or different leaders, things that are really inspiring, or to be around people that give you, like, not hold your hand, but like show you the way, but then also give you space to step into that. So I think Toastmasters actually is a great opportunity for that, because they have the leadership type path or built into the program in all the roles, and as well as on the executive. And yeah, you can really sink your teeth in, and
yes.
But it is a place of grace. So you have to give yourself grace to get your feet wet, get in there, get a little dirty, and then hopefully come out clean.
Everybody's chuckling with you, I'm sure.
That's my aim.
That's great.
Yeah.
The space to grow for ourselves, and then allowing other people the space to grow is also a great skill. So thank you, Sharina.
That's true,
Appreciate
yeah.
that. Representing Division J, Vivian, come on up.
Well, thank you, Mimi. I guess I am representing myself as well as my club,
yes, you are.
Toastmasters and Division J. So right on all counts.
I may need to change the wording on that. Representing Division J, I could say what? Nah, don't worry about it. Give us your quick experience about Toastmasters so far.
My quick experience about Toastmasters, I feel like I'm an old fart because I've been in there for quite a number of years, but my biggest or quickest quick is never turn down the opportunity for stage time and for volunteering. Is my quick. Because a lot of stuff will get thrown at you in terms of stage time and speeches, and a lot of stuff or opportunities, I don't want to say stuff, opportunities can get thrown at you in terms of leadership. And if you take those and seize those, this tremendous growth will come out of them.
For sure, I totally agree. What club are you involved in right now, and what year did you start? Now that you've told us you're an old fart in Toastmasters.
Oh, I think I just gave away my age. I started in the fall of 2009, to get that question out of the way. What clubs am I involved with? Oh, at a time I'm involved with 2 now. I had to step back. I was involved with Just Pros Toastmasters, I'm representing. I'm involved with Finding Vino Toastmasters in our neighboring sister districts, District 21. And for a time I was involved in Earthware Toastmasters, but work and everything got crazy, so I had to unfortunately take a step back for that. And I miss those guys terribly.
Okay, very good. There's a quote you said, "There is no gene for the human spirit." How does that relate to, very briefly, we've got the green light already, very briefly, to what's going on in the world right now?
For me, I think there's no gene for the human spirit represents there's no limit for human potential in terms of kindness, generosity, of human strength, really. So for me, that's a very motivating quote. Yeah, I know. I see the yellows. I'm like, oh, I gotta wrap this up.
I know. Think fast. Thank you so much, Vivian.
Okay, thank you, Mimi. Thank you.
And here, did I say representing Division N? I don't know. Now you've got me all confused, Vivian. Representing himself and Division N. Please help me welcome Kenny.
Thank you.
Hi. Excellent. Share with us a little bit about your Toastmasters experience so far.
I feel like I've been fairly new formally. I've heard of Toastmasters many, many moons ago, but I formally joined in, I think, mid 2018. So it's been about a year and a half, almost 2 years, and a time period. And fairly soon after joining, I was BPPR, and for this year and about to close, I am the president of my current club.
Wow. They just threw you right in there, didn't they?
Trial by fire.
Very nice.
Only way.
Yeah, hey. So how did the technical aspects of this contest differ for you to doing it in person for the area contest?
I think the key difference here is a bit of setup, and for me, I personally like using the floor space, and the specific floor space here is a little limited, not by visuals, of course, but foot movement, depending on how you choose to do it. And it's a bit of technology. If I had wireless mic, how far can I get away from the screens? So a lot of considerations there. But other than that, I feel the traditional Toastmaster items of clarity, voice, tone still applies with today's modern technology. And what a time to live in today in 2020. Having a pandemic is bad, but of all time periods to do it, this is opportune for us to use technology and still do what we love.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree. I agree also that, or I think also that we're not going to go back to whatever it was before, that it will be changed. What's your thoughts on that?
I don't, yes, at some level, and I see the yellow cue card, that's true, there might be a consciousness of this, but I look back that we, as in the world, had the Spanish flu, and we didn't stop interacting or wanting to be around people. I think the beauty of Toastmasters is the interaction, the eye contact, the energy that you can't fully feel through digital means. You can mimic, but can't fully feel the same way. So we'll get back there.
Very nice. Thank you,
soon.
Kenny.
Thank you, Mimi.
Awesome. And representing himself and Division S, Hyman. There was some confusion on how do you say your name. So if you could say it for me, that'd be great.
Heyman. Yeah. I accept any variations though. So.
Yeah. Mimi, whatever. You. I get them all as well. Thank you. Can you share with us a little bit about your Toastmasters experience so far?
Sure. I've been part of Toastmasters for 2 years. I'm part of Broad Toastmasters Club, and I want to give a shout out to the 3 people that I see from my club who are here to support. Nice. Scott, Nam, and Daisy. If there's anyone else who didn't put their full name, I apologize. But thank you guys for joining.
Very nice. Very nice. So your quote is by Dale Carnegie. Can you give us the quote and just give us a little snippet of its meaning for you?
Yeah, so the reason that the quote was it stood out to me was there's this Twitter account called Visualize This, and they just visualized, and the basics of the quote is if you're uncomfortable about something, you just have to. Actually, can you read the quote? It's a long quote, so I can't.
Oh, I don't have it up right now.
Oh, okay, all right.
Sorry.
So I have to improvise. Basically, the part about it is if you're uncomfortable with something, you just have to do it in order to get over the fact that you're uncomfortable about it. And maybe I'll share the image that was created in this Twitter account. And I love that. So, for example, public speaking, if you're scared, the best way to do it is to come to Toastmasters, get over that fear. And I think that applies to everything in life. You just have to face your fears head on.
Yeah, the adrenaline, let it happen, right?
Yeah,
absolutely. The quote is actually really good. Let me read it really briefly since you asked me to. Inaction breeds doubt and fear. Action breeds confidence and courage. If you want to conquer fear, do not sit home and think about it. Go and get busy.
Yes.
Yeah, very nice. Now I saw a color come up there. Okay, so yellow. So any last words on that particular quote?
No, I think it explains it.
Okay.
I think I'll share it today. Thank you very much.
Done and done. Thank you so much,
All right.
Raymond. Excellent. Sasha, representing himself and Division M. Please help me welcome Sasha.
Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent. Hello. Briefly give us your Toastmasters experience so far.
Okay, for me, I first joined Toastmasters about probably 15 years ago for about 8 months. And then about 5 years ago, I rejoined. I joined a very small club out in Aldergrove. And I got very comfortable in that group. I was there for probably a few years. And then I wanted to speak in front of a large crowd. So I went searching and I found Blue Heron. And at the time, they were getting about 35, 40 people per meeting. And they were so big, people didn't even get to speak, but just the kind of fear and excitement of speaking in front of a crowd that big every week drew me in.
Yeah, amazing experience from ones that where the club is small, hey? Yeah, for sure. So you have new property. Tell us your bold dream with your new property.
About a year ago, I got an acre. I'd been looking for a year. A bunch of deals fell through, but I originally I wanted it to have some peace and quiet. And when I bought it, no one had trimmed a bush or a hedge for 5 years. And I started cleaning, and I really fell in love with working in the yard and spending all that time clipping and putting out the green bins. So yeah, it's been a great experience.
Very cool. If you ever want to trim more bushes or do any yard work, you can come here. Okay. We have 160 acres and we'll let you trim to your heart's desire. Thank you so much, Sasha. And representing herself and Division D, please help me welcome Katie.
Thank you.
Hi. All the way from Dawson Creek, we're only 45 minutes away. So it feels really cool. And everybody else is mostly in Vancouver. Tell us briefly about your Toastmasters experience, Katie.
Yeah, so I joined Toastmasters in 2019, and I was actually looking for a way to get better at public speaking. At the time in my career, I was putting on workshops, and I had never, ever done something like that before. And I did one or two and I realized I am really bad at this. I need some pointers. I need some experience. And so someone recommended Toastmasters. And so I joined in January of 2019 and so glad I did. I've learned so much from this experience. And I can definitely say that my workshops improved tenfold, if not more. And so, yeah, it's just really been super beneficial for me and my career.
Yeah, very good. That was my question for you: is how has it helped support your business? And so, what was one specific difference you noticed from before Toastmasters to after Toastmasters for your workshops and business?
Well, definitely. I mean, a big one is my confidence at my workshops increased a lot, but also just I feel like you learn so much at Toastmasters. Not only how to speak, but just the confidence. I feel like I gained so much confidence in myself. I speak a lot, obviously, one-on-one with my clients. I speak at my workshops in crowds. I also am interviewed here and there. And so, I mean, a lot of that is having the confidence to just own what you're saying and to speak clearly. And I used to be, when I first joined Toastmasters, I was the queen of our club. I was before I even said who I was like 6 in, and I'm like, I don't even know what I was saying. And now I feel like I have the confidence to look someone in the eye and talk to them and own what I'm saying, whether I'm speaking about something that I'm knowledgeable about at my workshops, or whether I'm coaching a client, or whether I am speaking of something I'm not that familiar with, like I do at the table topics.
Nice. Well, I love your energy, and thank you so much, Katie.
Thank you.
And that is your contestants. Good luck to all of them, and back to you, Madam Contest Chair.
Thank you very much, Mimi. The results are in. And before I announce the results, there was no disqualifications due to time.
Maybe you could challenge us to think about our own moments in our life and then bring that back at the end of the speech. Like I said,
started off with a great quote, something to the effect of, you start changing when you realize the cost of being the same is higher than the cost of changing.
To summarize, excellent use of curiosity, phenomenal conflict. Add that repetitive phrase to drive home the point. Create that battling character dialogue, and what an exceptional message.
So I leave you with a simple question. Are you following your bliss?